What happened? I'm disoriented. I don't know what happened. It's probably what you're thinking, seeing a video that is not a 2 a.m. live stream. I genuinely did intend to make this video many, many moons ago, but as it happens, a year is not a lot of time to recover from everything going to complete shit, which I would argue began much more than a year ago and ended much more recently, but I'm basing the point where I got off of HRT to be where like the real catastrophe began. Like there was like a prequel where it was like, oh, what's gonna happen? You know, are good things gonna happen? Is my life finally gonna improve? Or is everything gonna go to shit? And is it gonna get much worse and more painful and difficult? And by God, everything got way worse. To begin with, I was feeling a little bit depressed. I was under a lot of pressure, both with like things that I had to handle in my life and also with work. And eventually I just kind of hit this breaking point where I was like calling off 3 times a week and just being a complete pain in the ass for my boss. And so they were like, listen, why don't you just go on FMLA? Like, just like hang out for 3 months, we'll pay you, like just vibe and figure your shit out. So I did that, and miraculously, I came out the other end feeling absolutely no better. 3 months is plenty of time when the issue is that like you fucked up your wrist or something and you just need to like not use it for a bit and then you'll be fine. 3 months is not a lot of time when you have some of the worst clinical depression your therapist says she has ever seen and you are in need of far more than your support system could ever provide and you're just plummeting. That doesn't just stop when you go on FMLA. You don't just sit around and eat Campbell's soup. I mean, I did, but it didn't make me feel better. So I went back to work, I ran out of sick time, and I sat down for a meeting with my bosses, and they were like, listen, we think we know what's got you like this. We think we know the fix. Hear us out. We think your HRT is making you kind of crazy. And we have a list of doctors that we could recommend if you need suggestions for someone who might be able to manage your care better. Mind you, I was getting my care through a hospital that specializes in trans healthcare. I was on the perfect regimen. I'm on the same thing right now that I was then. Magically, I feel absolutely fine, just like I did for the many months preceding the beginning of the bad things. So my bosses were way out of line for doing this, in my opinion, but at the time I was like, oh, well, maybe they're right. And I don't have any queer people in my life to tell me, hey, that's the stupidest thing I've ever fucking heard. And I didn't know how to articulate this online. Like, I was so depressed that I couldn't make videos. I mean, you guys all saw some of the really alarming streams I did where I was like, yeah, I really hate being alive. So I didn't quit HRT, but I also didn't get better. And I also didn't have sick time remaining. So I just said, fuck it, I guess I can't work, and quit my job. And the right thing to do would have been to do literally nothing at work until they fire me and then collect unemployment, because there were plenty of people doing literally nothing at work. In fact, the reason I was so stressed out about work in the first place is because I was covering for multiple other people who needed to be accommodated. There was like this dude who was like 83 and just couldn't think straight anymore, to the point where it was a major safety concern. One time he jammed a door open with a razor blade on a stick. Don't know anyone who's ever worked as a janitor. They make these razor blades, 3-foot stick, razor blade. Very simple design, not intended for use as a doorstop. It was sticking out at about neck height. This is not like some random closet door. This was the door to the gymnasium on the night of a major event. Razor blade on a stick. This guy could barely perform the functions of his job anymore. And then there was another guy who I honestly, like, you know, he needed accommodations, and that's fine. Honestly, everyone needs accommodations, everyone deserves them, but the answer is not make Skylar do it. And then when Skylar asks for accommodations, say, fuck you. So yeah, the whole reason I was so burnt out at work is because I was just taking on everyone else's responsibilities and doing just a ludicrous amount of work, and it would just follow me home. Oh god, and speaking of home, this is a complicated story, okay? The thing with detransition, this is still about detransition. Don't worry. The thing about detransition, though, is that it's never like a, oh, you know, I changed my mind. It's never that, like maybe 1% of the time. What it really is circumstance. It's something happening in your life that is cutting off your access to HRT or making you feel like you can't have access to it for some reason, whether it's your safety or your health, whatever it is. It's always circumstantial. And this is the circumstance. So behold, the circumstance. I quit my job and I didn't really have a backup plan and I was still really, really depressed. And on top of that, my therapist fucking died. My therapist straight up just fucking died 1 week. And it was really weird because the session before, she was like, listen, I'm going in for a medical procedure soon. I might not survive. And we were like treating it like it was our last conversation. And then she died in a flaming car accident when I needed her most. So after that moment, I just spiraled out of control, lost my job. The most important aspect of losing my job, though, like, it's one thing to not have income, right? You can just, god damn, this hair, I need a haircut so badly, or like tie it back or something. But then you guys would see my face, and no, just kidding, it's fine. It's fine. You can go without a job. You can go into debt. You can max out your credit cards. You can borrow money from people until there's no more money left to borrow. But when you do not have health insurance, healthcare related things are a major issue. When you can barely make rent, there's no room for you to just pay out of pocket to get your annual, or every 3 months is how often I had to check up to get my HRT renewed, which, what the fuck? I couldn't afford to go in, and I honestly was so depressed that I was not about to call and make an appointment and get myself taken care of anyway. And we're coming back to this. I genuinely, honestly thought that HRT was making me depressed and useless and weak and unable to do the things I needed to do to survive. When my bosses sat me down for that meeting, I was in such a vulnerable place that I just vibed with it. I don't know if you guys have ever been there, where you just let society convince you that maybe you are in fact the problem, but that is a crushing, isolating feeling. And I delayed getting back on HRT when I probably could have gone in and gotten it on sliding scale, or gone to Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood has kick-ass, like, everything. If you're broke, if you have like zero money, and you go into Planned Parenthood and say, hey, I need HRT, they will hook you up. They will get you taken care of if you live in a state where that's a thing that they are allowed to do. Even considering that, I didn't do it because I just wanted to see, I guess, what would happen if I wasn't on HRT. And what I can say is that it did not get better. In fact, it got much, much worse. I felt infinitely worse off HRT. And I'm not just talking about the initial adjustment period. I'm talking about 3 months after I've been off it for a while. Like, there's just, my system is like back to testosterone full time. Still felt like complete trash, if not worse. HRT was not the problem. But before I could figure out what was the problem, my roommates got addicted to crack cocaine. And my apartment became a complete trap house. It was impossible to sleep. There was awful music blaring at all times. Lines of coke laid out on the kitchen table waiting for someone to come and do them, or whatever the word. Do you do coke? I don't. I could have, because guess what? I was real fucking tired, and they're constantly like offering me coke, like, do you want some coke? And I would have to be like, oh man, not today. I have nothing to do today. So the apartment situation declined very rapidly. And on top of that, remember, I was paying like $1,000 a month that I did not have to not be able to sleep or eat or take a shower in my own apartment. And by the way, when I say roommates, I mean roommate and roommate's boyfriend who never fucking left and never once paid rent, ever. It gets worse. I went to a staffing agency and I got myself a full-time job, and I just tried not to focus on what was happening at home and put in my 40 hours a week, and I made it like a month or so, and I really thought that I was getting my shit together. One night I told my roommates that the guy who had been staying there, who was basically fucking everything up and making my apartment a living hell for me, I told them that he was gonna have to leave and that I was gonna do whatever I had to do to make him go away. You know, I don't want to call the police ever, like, but I was going to if that's what it took to get this guy out of my fucking apartment. And I told them that, and their response was to do like all of the drugs that they had and come to me crying in the middle of the night. They opened my fucking bedroom door and came in and they were like, can you please stay? Can you please, we're so sorry, we'll fix everything, we'll stop being bad roommates. That fucking night, my roommate fucking overdoses on the goddamn living room floor. There's a whole graphic fucking series of traumatizing events that I have to deal with that follow this that I am still not fucking over. But literally the night they were like, oh, we're gonna make this better as long as he can stay. And I was like, fine, he can stay. They did the worst thing that they were going to do. Eventually I was just like, you know what, I'm not renewing this lease, I'm not coming back here, obviously. So why don't you just get this fucking deadbeat on the lease and I'll get out of here as soon as I possibly can. So they gave me until the end of December. and I made plans to move to Chicago with a friend who lied to me about their rental history. And when the time came to apply for an apartment that we qualified out the ass for, we definitely met the income requirements. Literally everything about our application was fine, except for the fact that they listed their previous landlord as their reference. And guess what? They had a fucking unresolved dispute about property damage. They didn't go to court, they didn't go through any of the proper channels, they just walked away from this property without paying the damages that the landlord was alleging that they owed. And even if it was complete bullshit, even if they didn't do anything wrong, you have to resolve that in order to, you have a rental history, it's a real thing. They call these people. So we got denied, and I found myself with 2 weeks left to find a place to live in December, and I didn't find a place to live. And on top of that, we got into another argument the last week that I was supposed to be there, and my roommates kicked me out 3 days early. And I was homeless in fucking December. Fucking December into January. I did this for the entire month of January, by the way. I stayed in my goddamn car in the winter. It was like 20, 30 degrees out, and I made it fucking work. And I don't have like a van. I don't have a beautiful, luxurious Pontiac Aztek where I can sprawl out and have nice heated seats and, you know, be warm and cozy all night. I have a Volkswagen Jetta. Okay, I had to fold the back seat down, and I had to sleep with my legs in the fucking uninsulated trunk. I had to go to Home Goods and buy an ugly, I mean the ugliest, but I love it, Eddie Bauer comforter from the goddamn clearance section and use it as like my only form of insulation, hoping to God that I didn't freeze to fucking death. All because these motherfuckers didn't want to stop doing drugs in my apartment, and because I lost my job twice. By the way, that second full-time job I was talking about just then, I lost that job to this, because after that one night where everything got fucky, it just knocked me back down into a whole new realm of depression that I just could not handle. Actually, it was really funny. On my last day at that job, they took me halfway through my shift. They were like, your performance has gone shit, we're moving you. They moved me to the trash compactor, and I quit the next day. I just needed bad things to stop happening to me. I needed like a month to rest so I could get my shit together. I kept trying to get my life back on track, but every single thing that I tried failed because other people fucked me. Also, thank you so much to like the people who stuck around and like supported me on Patreon and stuff, and also the people who reached out and they were just like, here is survival funding, because boy, when you guys did that is exactly when I needed it. You might be wondering, where is my family and all this? Like, is there anyone that I can call? I know that's what my girlfriend's parents asked the first night that I tried to, oh, has it stopped recording? No, it's not. I'll be back in a second. Yeah, I tried to stay at my girlfriend's family's house for a couple of nights, and their first question was, where the fuck is your family? Like, why are we, you know, they don't know we're dating. They don't know we're dating, so it was really weird for her to ask, hey, can this friend just stay here for a couple days? But to answer the question, where the fuck is my family? In Florida is where my family is. And also, remember how I said that my mom sucks? My dad is not as bad, but also not great. Neither of them are healthy to be around. They obviously don't take my gender seriously, but on top of that, they are very antagonistic and belittling. I knew being exposed to them for an extended period of time would probably be, it would become much, much harder to escape the depression spiral. Like, it was easier to try to scrape together anything that I could to stay alive up here in Illinois, where, you know, the government doesn't want me dead. I don't have to explain to a trans audience why going to Florida is a bad thing, thank God. I'm so used to having to explain to people like why I couldn't just go to Florida and live with my family. Thanks to you guys, I didn't have to. There were times where it came down to like $100, and I was like, oh my God, if I don't come up with $100 like this week, I am going to Florida. I'm going to have to sell my car, I'm gonna have to go to Florida, and I'm gonna stream more, I guess. That hasn't had to happen so far because I had one really good friend. I only had to do this through January. I had one good friend who was like, hey, listen, come stay with my family. They are pretty cool people for the most part. Fox News is always on, but you know what? They don't talk about Fox News, which is all I fucking need, man. One time I asked my dad for help, and he was like, how about this? I'm gonna give you 10 boxes of 36 rolls of packing tape, 50 bidets, oh, and also 30 AR-15 cleaning mats. And you're gonna sell these, and that's how you're gonna make the money. That was their contribution. They are living their wildest dreams down in Florida. They go to Disney World like every couple months. That's a long distance between trips for them. They're building right now, their project is they're gonna put a fireplace in, but it's not gonna be a functional fireplace. And also, they live in fucking Florida. A fireplace. It's gonna cost $11,000. Should we eliminate our firstborn child's credit card debt? Or should we build a completely non-functional fireplace in Florida? Thank you guys for being cooler than my family. How about we get back to HRT? I think that would be quite good. I managed to regain access to it when I was living in my car in January, and I have been sticking to it ever since. Back on my old regimen, feeling much happier and healthier, and frankly looking better. I feel like I can show my face on the internet again. But I will say that being off of HRT for like the 8-ish months that I was off of it made me confront the concept of gender and reevaluate some things. I spent a lot of time before all of this happened trying to make my gender, if that makes any sense. But I think what I've come to realize is that gender is not a thing that you just create. Like, you don't come up with it. Like, it's not like a name. It's not like something that you would put on like a driver's license. It's not just a piece of data. It is the culmination of like lived experience. You have to be living it, like doing it to feel it. Because like, what's the use of a theoretical gender? We're practicing applied gender. That's what it is. I've graduated from theoretical to applied gender. I'm not recommending detransitioning as a means to figure out your gender faster. It is not a thing that anyone should ever do, but I am glad that I wasn't wasting the time. At the very least, I didn't stop working on myself just because I didn't have access to the medicine. So that's kind of the conclusion. I got back on it and now everything's okay. Subscribe. Lastly, if you do want to help me with the debt hole that I mentioned, then Patreon is a thing. There are really no benefits to it, and if you don't have like disposable income, like if it's the choice between like, oh, am I gonna buy another Gundam this week or am I gonna help this bitch out, you know, like then maybe go ahead. But like if you're also paycheck to paycheck, then like the homie you should be helping out is you. I'm gonna be fine. I can work this off. But boy, is it a challenge. In conclusion, do not quit HRT. Don't do it. Don't fucking do it.